Well, hello, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Palace fans throughout the world. Welcome to another edition of the Red and Blue Review. My name is Ian Noble and I am your host this evening to unpack another show where we're talking about a 1-1 draw against Brighton and Hove Albion at Selhurst Park yesterday. With me on the show this evening, I have Lord Holyoke. Good evening, Jel. How are you, mate?
Lord, thank you. I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very well indeed. Very well indeed. And Chloe Johnson, welcome back to the Red and Blue Review. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Jolly good. Excellent. And you were at the game yesterday?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, and tell everyone where you sit in the ground.
Halfway.
In the Arthur Way, yeah. In Block X, right next to the Brighton fans, giving it large to them yesterday, I hear. Is that right? Yeah, excellent. Good stuff. And Nick Philpott's coming on as well. I don't know where he's disappeared to, but he should be with us very, very soon. But look, I don't know. How do we all feel about yesterday? Well, it was a tough one to watch, wasn't it? It was really, really difficult. Here he is. Nick, better late than never. The late Mr. Philpott. He's not dead. He's just always late, they tell me. So, hello, mate.
My microphone died literally as we went live. I do apologise. Good evening, everybody. Evening, Facebook land. This is very strange, isn't it?
There we are. So you're going to have to do as you're told this evening because I'm hosting, all right? So let's just remember that, okay? There we go.
I will.
I'll be on my 2023, Crystal Palace still haven't won a game in 2023. Brighton and Hove Albion undefeated in 2023, and we go up against them head-to-head in the Premier League at Selhurst Park yesterday. We sit in 12th place in the league, 25 points, 22 games played, reasonably comfortable. But after yesterday, how are we all feeling? It was a tough one to watch, wasn't it? For sure. It's getting a bit squeaky bum time down at the bottom of that division, of course, because today has seen another Premier League manager lose their job. Nathan Jones, Southampton manager, sacked today. And now 5 of the bottom 6 clubs in the Premier League have changed their manager this season. And we're nervously looking over our shoulder, or are we, as we approach the run-in for this season in the Premier League. Before we get into the game itself for yesterday, it's what we do on this podcast is we look at the other teams in the club as well. So we're going to do that tonight as well. So I'm just going to quickly get it up on my phone and to tell you how the other teams have done. Well, the under-18s haven't played since we were last on, but their next game, interestingly, is at home to Brighton. It's next Saturday morning at 11 o'clock in the under-18 Premier League at the training ground. The under-21s played this week. They won 2-1 at home against Sporting Braga in the Premier League International Cup. That means they progressed through the league matches to the quarterfinals. Their next match is against Leicester on Monday, the 13th of February. And earlier today, Palace Women, they won at home to Durham in the Women's Championship, a 1-0 win, goal from Annabelle Blanchard in the 63rd minute. And next up, they play Sheffield United in 2 weeks' time, 2 p.m. kickoff at Hayes Lane on the 26th of February. We're going to come back to the women's game a little bit later on, so it's not all you hear about the women's game tonight from the Red and Blue Review. Nick, you're going to keep an eye on the chat for us as well tonight. We've got a usual crowd joining us, I think. So do you want to say a few good evenings to people, Nick, before we start the game?
Indeed. Andy Best, Johnny Cook, Mark Wills, Palace Pins is out there, Michael Middleton. Stay tuned, Michael. You know, we're coming to it later. Somebody called Day 000000 is in the chat saying Andy Stacey, Paul Wyatt, Paul Holman, Paul Obi, Paul Grants, Johnny Cook, Facebook users there. It's got to be Andrew Adams and Daniel Garlick. Phil Usher, still waiting for me cakes. Mark Callahan and beautiful Claire Davis, John Knox. Good evening to each and every one of you, wherever you are watching in the world. Over to you.
And obviously throughout the show, guys, you know, if you've got something to say, you want to ask a question, then do stick it in the chat there, and we'll try and get to it throughout the show and all the talking points about yesterday's game, of course. So let's come to the lineup first of all at Selhurst Park yesterday. There's no Wilfred Zaha. There's no Joachim Andersen. There's no Joel Ward. And right at the last minute, there's no Chris Richards. So, Chloe, talk us through this lineup, if you'd be so kind, please.
I was disappointed with the lineup. I thought we were strong defensively. I thought the only thing that worried me was Tompkins starting, but he actually played pretty well. Yeah, I didn't like Mateta starting. I thought, if I'm really honest, I think he doesn't really offer much. Yeah, wasn't great. I thought we should have started at least one of the new signings, maybe Lokonga, because he's got he already has Premier League experience. So I'm not sure why he didn't start him. Maybe it's because he didn't want to throw him in at the deep end against Brighton. But yeah, I thought he looked pretty good when he came on as a sub. So yeah, I'm not sure
Okay,
why.
so
he
you would have
didn't
started
start.
Lokonga. Who would you have started
Yeah.
him for then?
Oh, maybe Schlupp. I don't know.
Maybe Schlupp. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Tell me how you were feeling at 2:00 yesterday, Jel, when you saw that lineup.
Oh, fuming.
Fuming.
Absolutely. No, I mean, the thing is, I thought I had a bit of a result yesterday. So I've been having to work the last few Saturdays, and I'm working at the moment in Edenbridge. And if anyone knows Edenbridge, it's about, I'm trying to equate, if you can equate Edenbridge to a year, the year is 1976, because DAB radio doesn't work down there, FM radio doesn't work properly down there. So I couldn't, this 4G is so scant, it's ridiculous. So every way that I tried to listen or watch the game on my phone was, I obviously, only saw parts of it before I lost the stream. So, but I rang Nick. I was so angry with that lineup. And of course, it wasn't until today really that the news came out about Chris Richards and his injury. So, but yeah, for me to see, Eze on the bench, and I just really quite, supposed to be. We play 4-4-2 at home against Man United, but we can't do it at home against Brighton, our supposed arch rivals. So yeah, to say fuming was an absolute understatement. And I think as well, I was surprised when I looked at the subs bench. We didn't have a defender, did we?
On the bench, let's get the lineup back up again, Nigel. Can you please? So just have a look at that bench again from yesterday, if we can.
2 goalkeepers, which is bizarre. So we're taking three first-team goalkeepers for a first-team game. Is he just expecting Brighton to start knocking our goalkeepers out or something? I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand it.
So Jaya Riedeveld, you could argue, is a defender, but there's no. He's a midfielder, really. So you're right. Yeah. There's actually no defender on that bench, is there?
I mean,
no
for me,
defender.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what, and I'm not joking when I say this, and I don't mean to sound sort of dramatic, because that can be the way sometimes. But that lineup to me, that smacked of a manager not treating this. Can you look? That smacked of a manager wanting to get sacked. He's not being backed, and I don't think he's coming across at the moment as he just sound bites after. But Ian, let me just say this: had Arsenal put a team out like that against Tottenham, as weak comparably against Tottenham, what do you think, while he was playing, what do you think would have happened? I think some of them players would have gone to the manager and gone, "What are you doing? Why is one of our creative players, Eze, not playing? He could have just come on there and marked. Like, they've got a World Cup winner in their side. I can't get my head around it."
Okay, all right, okay. Thanks for your views, Jill, on that. Chloe, you said you wouldn't have played Mateta. Who would you have started up top?
Oh God, I mean, Edouard isn't great either, is he? But I feel like Edouard offers more. Mateta, but like the only threat Mateta has, he doesn't use. Like, he's huge. He's like over 6 foot, and he can't head a ball. He got out jumped by what was it, Bruno Fernandes the other week. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. Yeah, he doesn't offer any. He really doesn't offer anything. So yeah, but Edouard, he's not really much better, is he? I thought at the beginning, when it was like, when fans were debating who do you think is a better player, I would have gone with Edouard. But he's offered little to nothing as well. So
Okay.
Best of a bad bunch, really, isn't it?
So he's alternating them almost, isn't he? To give them each a go. All right, let's come to the game then. Nick, you're going to do the game for us. Before you get into it, what were your views on the lineup?
I think it's quite interesting what Jel just said, that we got somebody positive going forward in Eze on the bench. Bearing in mind also, don't forget, we didn't have Will Zaha, so you'd think it would be the perfect opportunity to have Eze one side and Elise on the other side, with one or either Mateta or Edouard up top. I mean, we've been crying out to get them all in the same team together. With Will's absence, it was a perfect opportunity, and I think it was a trick miss. And Jel said those words to me yesterday on the phone. That lineup looked as though it was a manager waiting to get the sack. And I have to say, I cried with laughter when he said it. Was
not waiting, wanting. I said wanting
to get
that was a bad line from Edenbridge. Obviously, you didn't hear him properly.
Right, so Palace Brighton. Eagles were unbeaten in 4 years against their rivals. Note, I said rivals because post-match, one of you said local derby. It's not a local derby, okay? So I don't want to hear local derby ever again on this channel.
M23 derby, A23 derby, it is not.
You're fired, okay? So the first few minutes were obviously a tense affair, but the first opportunity actually came to us, and it was following a run down the left by Jordan Ayew, who put a crossover and checked the Corey, scuffed his shot wide of the post. Now, I just want to very quickly stop there. In one of our chats yesterday, guys, I put in there that I wanted to say positive stuff about Jordan Ayew yesterday, and I did. And I said, in actual fact, my thoughts were he was probably man of the match yesterday. He covered every blade of grass. However, on reflection, and now having watched back the extended highlights, it will obviously have to go to Guaito because he made some, and I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So I know I was bigging up Jordan Ayew yesterday, who did have a good game and he did work hard, but man of the match for me would have to be Vicente Guaito. Ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, who do you think should have been your player of the match yesterday? Your thoughts, please. Put them in there. I'll read them out shortly. So shortly after that, sorry?
I said, you can't help yourself. Get on with it.
So shortly after that, they had their first shot. It was a central break, and they kept breaking us down through the middle, and it carried on right the way through the game. From the talented World Cup star Alexis McAllister, who we're going to be speaking quite a bit of, who on another day should and could have scored 3 or 4 goals. They were saved low down by Vicente Guaito, and on the 7th minute was the most controversial incident of the game, in my opinion. It was a horrific foul by McAllister on Chet Decore. There it is on screen. Now, ladies and gentlemen out in Facebook land, have a look at that challenge there and tell me what is the difference between the Mitchell challenge against Fulham, okay, and that challenge that was not VAR. Look at that other image there. I just want to compare if you got it. I mean, I didn't see how bad it was during the game. It was only when I saw it back on a couple of the threads, especially on Twitter. And so there's the other one. It's a horrific challenge by McAllister, but it's actually no different. That one there from Mitchell, in my opinion, he was just late. Okay, maybe clumsy, but he got a straight red card, and a top 4 team didn't. So your thoughts in the chat, please. What followed from that was a series of shots, 3 or 4 shots, one from McAllister, one from the edge of the box, which was again beaten away by Guaita. The next one, Mitoma, I think is he World Cup Japanese player? Did he play in the World Cup?
Yeah, he played the World Cup for Japan. Yeah, that's how we sort of first came across him, really.
He was pretty good in the first half. He quietened off a little bit in the second half. It was a good move down Guaita's left. I asked in the chats, as I say, I just love to know everybody's thoughts about the man of the match situation. But again, it was actually Ayew got back and was helping track back all the players. On 32 minutes, however, the main talking point of the game and the funniest part of the afternoon came to light. Okay, it was a disallowed goal. Good movement through the middle again from Pascal Gross, and it was a bit of a drag shot, a looping effort, which went past VG by Estepinen. Is his name Estepinen?
Just say left back. That'll do.
Up from left back was actually what I put in my notes. Okay, and what made me laugh, and again, we were talking about it, folks out in Facebook land, we were talking about this pre-chat, was Brighton were absolutely going potty, okay? They finished singing their boring Albion, and then who are you? And they're actually on to the next song, okay, when Michael Oliver puts his finger to his ear saying he's been spoken to at Stockley Park. And of course, the longer it went on, we're all talking in the crowd, hang on a minute, they've obviously seen something here. And he, of course, consequently disallowed the game. And the funniest thing from that was the entire Palace part of the stadium went back at Brighton saying, who are you? And it just cracked me up. And and the funniest thing was that it is a complete cock-up of a decision. The PGMOL put out a statement today, and you can see it on screen, and can confirm that its chief refereeing officer, Howard Webb, has contacted both Arsenal and Brighton Hove Albion to acknowledge and explain the significant errors in VAR process in their respective Premier League fixtures on Saturday. Well, I mean, to me, it was the best part of the afternoon. Okay, it was going to be a tight affair anyway, and from me, it was just absolutely outstanding. But it seemed to take an that's what to come.
We're losing you slightly.
You guys really read that. But, are you?
Nick, yeah, that you came in and out there. We didn't get all of that, but I hear what you're saying. You're saying it took an age for the decision to be made, for VAR to make that decision. Clearly, they're looking at all the angles in Stockley Park. Clearly, they're drawing the lines in the wrong place, which was handy for us, and which is why the apology was issued. And you've got to say that we got away with one there, absolutely, because, if that had been against us, we would have been absolutely livid. But sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and it's no different with VAR. Sometimes the decisions go against you, sometimes they go for you, and it went for us yesterday in that regard. And the longer these decisions take with VAR, you just know the decision's going to be overturned. In the ground, Chloe, yesterday, what did you think when the goal was scored? Did you think it was a good goal, or did you think, that looked offside to me?
Oh, God. My first thought was worry. We're 1-0 down.
Okay.
And then, but it was just I didn't actually know if it was offside or not. If I'm really honest,
Sure.
I wasn't.
It's almost as good as scoring a goal, isn't it? When the opposition's goals are ruled out, suddenly you're celebrating, jumping about like you scored yourself. Jel.
Yeah, I spoke to my brother-in-law yesterday because obviously he's in the Sainsbury's end, and he said it weren't even limbs in their end; it was bodies. I think there's photos on social media of showing like Brighton fans upside down and going down they were getting completely bonkers for an offside goal. And that was he said it was so funny.
But, and of course they can't see from that corner in the away end, and you certainly can't see from the Sainsbury's end, Whitehall's end, up the other end what's going on. But where I'm sitting in the main stand, for me it looked slightly off, and the longer it went on, going, this isn't going to be given. They're going to rule this out. And I think I was probably looking at the guy beyond him, the one that didn't touch the ball, because he was in an offside position, but he didn't touch the ball. So we got away with one, Nick, didn't we?
Yeah. So look, I don't know if any of you also picked up later in the first half, and I'll just put it in my notes as well. Later in the first half, we actually did start pushing on a little bit. Our press was a little bit higher, and that perseverance actually we finally found Mateta, whose effort was blocked by the very talented guy at the back, Adam Webster. And in the dying seconds of the first half, more or less the same scenario, another block from for Mateta from Webster again. That guy at the back there is a good player. And so we went into the break all square at half time.
Indeed. He's keeping Lamptey out the side, that guy at right back, the number 4. So that they rate him as well, don't they? So he had a good game against Mateta and 2 very good challenges there. I'm just, before you go into the second half, I want to talk about the McAllister challenge in the 7th minute. So Michael Oliver books him. He doesn't see it as a red card. He books him. It's a yellow card for him, booking only. We look back on the Tariq Mitchell challenge against Fulham, and we think it's the same kind of challenge. Now, the referee on that day, whose name escapes me, was straight in. He couldn't wait to get his red card out of his pocket. He was straight there, waving it about, sending him off straight away. No hesitation at all. I'll tell you what I think the problem is here. Well, not a problem, but this is the rule of VAR for me, is that for VAR to overturn the on-field decision, it's got to be a clear and obvious error by the referee. And in both instances, the Fulham game, it wasn't clear and obvious that there was an error there. It was potentially a red card. So they don't overturn it. And unfortunately for us, it was the same yesterday. The VAR might have looked at it and thought, it's not clear and obvious. Not clear and obvious error. Therefore, the yellow card still stands and we don't overturn it. If it was like ridiculously, the most ridiculous challenge that is always going to be given red by any referee, and it's not seen that way by the on-field decision by the referee, then they do whisper in his ear saying, go and look at the monitor. But I think that's the reason why we get this discrepancy, because you've got two separate people and it's human, subjective views really by those referees. Nick?
Yeah, Gareth Walsh in the chat is saying wasn't it Andy Madley that red carded the Mitchell challenge?
Yeah.
And I think, thank you for that, Gareth. Well done. And then at the end of the day, we've discussed this a million times where we keep saying there's nothing wrong with VAR. VAR is good. VAR is actually fine. What's wrong is the idiots that are operating it. And it was proved to be the case because somebody else put in the chat a little while ago, it wasn't just the Arsenal game and the Palace game yesterday. It was also up in Scotland. It actually had a nightmare of a day yesterday. But it's not the system. It's whoever's operating it. If they can't see that Geehee was behind whoever it was it Decore? Whoever it was. And it's just ridiculous. So the second half started up on similar fashion. We seem to be set up to be happy to concede possession and let them come onto us. And I think that's worthy of note at the end of this because, did we have the players, the structure out there to be able to cope with that sort of possession football from Brighton? And the stats will come on to at the end. They had a couple more chances, one from Solly March and one for Esther Puman. Okay, finally the breakthrough came on the 63rd minute from attack down their left to the back post. And I have to say it, a sleeping Tyreek Mitchell was left standing by March, who stuffed it into the roof of the net. Ask the question, am I right in saying that Mitchell was responsible for that? Jill?
Yeah, Chloe, your view?
Definitely, and it's not the first time he's been caught ball watching at the far post, is it, this season?
Yeah, so Chloe's with you on that. Nick, what about you, Jill?
Can do what we used to do when I played football, and that's give your mate a shout. No one talks to each other in this team. The other thing as well is there's a thing called desire, and whereas Mitchell never got a call, March is in the form of his life, and his desire to get to the ball. So it's what players that are playing well they seem to make those. Any other time against us, March doesn't get a look in. You never see him play really well against us. He has the odd chance, but at the moment he is absolutely on fire, and his desire got him there. But you have to talk to each other. It's just, I'd love to. I mean, I don't get there enough, so I'd like to hear it from because you two, you guys all go all the time, but you used to hear the captain, you used to hear the goalkeeper, people barking, and But the few times I've been, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that at all.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I'm with you guys. I think Tyreek Mitchell was at fault. I think he should have done better. And Joe, you're probably right in as much as, he could have got a shout as well. But I think also that we don't let the cross come in. We didn't close down that guy, I can't say his name, the left back quick enough. Did we, Chloe?
Elise actually made a really good tackle in the lead up to the goal, and then it got straight. I can't remember who he passed it to, but we just got dispossessed really easily, and then that led to the goal. So
Michael Elise losing possession for you was culpable or towards the
because the ball came. Yeah, the ball came into the box. He made a good tackle, lost the ball.
Enough.
And I actually think, if I may, I think actually Chloe's actually raised a very good point, okay, because what I saw from Michael Elise yesterday was what I hadn't seen previous. Okay, was his willingness to track back a lot more. Okay, and help out in the defensive role. So good point, well made. Then in the 69th minute, okay, what was it, 5 or 6 minutes later? Early Christmas present, a gift from us. Michael Elise has a free kick outside the box, about 10 yards outside the box. Sanchez inexplicably dropped the ball. And he dropped it right into the path of Tompkins, who thought, hello, what's all this about? And bashed it back into the net with his head. It was the simplest of nods home. And obviously the stadium went berserk. And they got away with one in the first half, as we've already discussed. Okay, well, that made up for it in my mind. It was, and it couldn't happen to a nicer bloke, because let's be honest with you, I believe his contract's up at the end of the season. It's probably the last time we'll see Tompkins, if we get some of our players back, in the Palace shirt. And for him to score a goal, and it meant a lot to him, even in his post-match interview, it meant an absolute massive amount. He scored against them before. Somebody in the chat, please let me know what game it was, what year it was that Tompkins last scored for Palace against Brighton, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I know he has done one in the past. So in the closing stages, Brighton had, I actually wrote down the word weed here, I can't use that. Brighton had a few more decent moments to clinch the points, but they failed. The match ended in yet another draw between these two. If I'm brutally honest with you, my overall thoughts on the game, and I think everybody else has summed it up, it was a crap game. It was a very, very poor game to be known to, in truth. My feeling was it was a point gain for us and 2 massive points dropped for them. And if you read, I actually went, for the first time in years, I went on the North Stand chat last night, and I needed some tissues, because it was there was so many tears. There was so many, they were crying. God, the hate, the vile, the vitriol against us. I have to say, it's a joy to behold. Guys, over to you.
Excellent. I'd say that makes me laugh that you had time to go on North Stand chat to look at it, because I haven't done that for a long, long time. But you can just imagine the meltdown, can't you? That's hilarious. Jel.
I was just on cpfc.co.uk, and it's not a fantastic website, to be honest with you. There's a lot of mistakes on it. But I just wanted a sort of talk about rose-tinted spectacles. He said Brighton also won it with McAllister, and I did see this, a yard or two out, at the very most at the end. He failed to head March's corner in totally unmarked, almost on the line. And it says, but a point was well deserved for the Eagles for a display of industry, endeavour, and commitment. Okay, so on the 63rd minute, if you ever get a chance to look at it, come watch Mateta. I have backed that guy whenever he's come on. I'm telling you now, if I was a manager, he'd never play for us again. I have never seen, even Ayew at his worst, never did what he did. He literally didn't. He just stopped. He stopped running. I mean, it was the 63rd minute, and honestly,
that's what they call the 63rd minute. So what part of it you're talking about?
61. Then without shutting down. He just wasn't shutting down at all. You need to lead from the front. Edouard does it. Wolf does it. You have to lead from the front. He was literally walking. He wasn't even jogging. He stopped.
Okay.
Jogging. And I was, just his attitude was terrible yesterday. And I don't think, from everything I've seen, with a percentage of everything, which we'll talk about at the end with the stats, there's no way in a million years we deserve to get anything out of that game.
No, you're spot on, Jel. Everyone agrees with that for sure. I think one thing we can say is that we ground that point out. We ground it out. And I think when Patrick Vieira says, I'm satisfied, I'm really pleased with the point, he's more relieved than anything else, like the rest of us, because we couldn't wait for the full-time whistle. When 4 minutes went up, I'm counting it down as if we're bloody winning, like we do sometimes, And I'm just grateful for the point. Before we finish the second half, Nick, I'll come to you in a second. I just can you just put that first picture up, Nige, again, of the goal? that James Tompkins scored for us. The one with the high money picture. Can we get that one up again? I just want to pay tribute to this lady. This is a photo taken yesterday by the great High Money. High was the palace photographer for many, many years, and she visits Selhurst less frequently these days, but she's just a great lady. And she took this photo yesterday, and she hasn't lost it, has she? What a great picture with a camera, she said, that is slightly older than most of us, I think, is what she alluded to. But thank you, High, for that picture. That was brilliant. So, Nick, carrying on with the second half, we've got some other bits as well.
I'm nearly finished on that, but if High's carrying around a camera that is as old as us, or if he's as old as Jel, okay, it'd be a box brownie, wouldn't it?
Well, maybe as old as Chloe, let's say that, you know.
Listen, Paul, this is the wonder of our Facebook, our people that follow this show. Paul Bristow, and great to see you yesterday, mate. Great to actually spend a bit of quality time with you yesterday. James Tompkins scored in the 3-2 win versus Brighton at Selhurst. The game when all 5 goals came in the first half. You know, and that's what we got. I'm a bit worried about Claire Davis. Claire, you're worrying me. I've just found out something I didn't know about you, and I've known you for many years. Love to the family, by the way. And she says, being with a Brighton fan, you need to go and get your head felt, okay? Being with a Brighton fan, I'm glad we got that. At least he doesn't have the bragging rights. It's very simple, Claire. You know what to do. I'm available. Get rid of him and come find me. I'll take you to the games every week. Anyway, in summary, a very, very poor game. In summary, we set up in a particular way yesterday that I wasn't comfortable with, especially with possession stats, which we're going to come on to now. It was a very, very, and can I also echo before I sign off, Ian, my love for High Money as well. I've known, like you, High for many years. High, if you are watching this, we would love to have you on the show one night. You are an absolute superstar in the eyes of many, many Palace fans.
Yeah, and there was just a comment up there from someone says, buy her book, 40 years of Palace photos, and I would echo that. I've got that book. It's absolutely brilliant. So really, very, very good. Okay, so we all agree that we were lucky to get a point. And the reason we were lucky to get a point is these stats. So, Jel, talk us through these stats, mate. That will come up right in front of you now.
25%.
Yeah, go on.
25% possession to us. Shots on target. Well, shots 6 to us, 17 to them. On target 1 to us, 7 to them. 1 corner for us, 6 to them. Fouls 10 to us, 11 to them. I think the stats. The 25% is absolutely shocking, but I think it's sort of. It sounds our policy of just not shutting people down, letting them have the ball for this entire season, which is why we are probably bottom of any stat when it comes to closing down and running. And the other stat at the very bottom, 10 fouls to us, 11 to them. I wish a little bit of me wishes we had Jim Cannon on here tonight, because I think he probably would have committed 10 fouls on his own in a game of that magnitude yesterday. The fact that we are not getting in and smashing them like we have done of old, and I really don't care about what people say, you know, the game has changed. It hasn't changed that much. Just watch any other I'm going to say rival game, not derby, but a rival game. And that's what happens. You find 2 or 3 of their players are proper up for it. And you know, we did not look up for that in any which way at all.
So forget the result for a moment. What was your reaction to those stats when you saw them? I mean, you sort of knew what they were going to be roughly like, maybe not quite as bad as that. But how did you feel, Nick, when you saw those stats? You're muted at the moment.
No, having watched the game live as I did, I wasn't surprised by them. I thought we actually had a couple more shots on, a couple more efforts on goal than those stats were actually showing. I think it started at the front of the formation, really. Mateta, as we've already alluded to, he can't jump. He's a big bloke. You've got to realise this is a big unit. What is he, 6'4", 6'6"?
Yeah.
And he can't jump. He doesn't win headers. To hold the ball up, okay, there was one occasion yesterday where he actually managed to hold the ball up and bring in whoever it was. I think it was Elise on one side. I'm not surprised by those stats because the performance was just so garbage. And for the manager to be speaking so upbeat about it post-match, okay, I wonder what game he was watching, if I'm brutally honest with you. Brighton are a good team. I hate to say it. I'll go wash my mouth out. But, Gel's got a point, and somebody mentioned it in the chat. Where is our reducer? You could argue that Hughesy was our reducer yesterday, maybe, and put a couple of good tackles in.
He got booked, didn't he? He's got his customary booking.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm getting a little bit peed off with the fact that every time he plays, he gets another booking. And very similar for Decore as well. I know they're doing a role in the midfield, and you could argue they're going to get a large percentages of bookings, but there doesn't seem. It seems every game they're both getting booked, and it's going to rack up sooner or later. We're going to get Jimmy Mack back in the next week or so. You watch, and we're going to lose Decore to another bang. It's going to come.
We shall see. Lee Lockwood says in the chat: half-time stats, completed passes. Palace 103, Weed 336 at home. Yeah, I think it sums it up. Embarrassing. That's how I felt when I saw the stats. I was embarrassed by them. Just not good enough. You've got to keep the ball more. I know they're decent, Brighton. I know they're a good side. I know they've got some great footballers, got a World Cup winner and everything else. But we needed to do much, much better than that. And Patrick Vieira needs to tell them that. And certainly, we'll come to this game later, the Brentford game next week. Again, another very good side, a very good footballing side, difficult to beat. We've got to do better next week at Brentford. Jel.
I'm not too sure. Paul Bristow might know this because I know he's a bit of a stato, but I'm sure that we had a 17% once against someone very good. It might be Man United 7 or 8, 9 years ago. But I can't think of a time at home, where we've only had, I think we might have had a 23% against Liverpool, that 7-0. I think that might have been a 23, but that's against Brighton. That is so poor. And did you boo them off, or were you just relieved to get a point?
There was an element of booing, but it was more relief than anything else, I think.
Anyone go after Vieira?
No.
Can I make a point?
Yes. Do please come in.
With those stats as they were, with that performance as they were, can I ask you all to cast your mind back 2 years ago? Tell me, what was the difference in that performance under Roy Ball with those stats as they were? And, you could argue we've got a lot better players, okay, but the stats are still the same, which would indicate one thing to me, that Vieira is not improving the players that he has got. Okay, or let's be fair to him, the players that are available at this time. I'm sorry, but what I witnessed yesterday was a Roy Hodgson lineup performance.
Yeah, difficult to disagree with that, Nick, for sure. Okay, so we've looked at the game. I don't think there's anything more we want to start to repeat ourselves. We know we got a bit lucky yesterday, and let's hope it was just one of those bad days at the office when we can, regroup now and do better next week, next time out. I want to talk about change the subject slightly. We'll come back to next week and team selection, because a lot of people are asking in the chat things like, has Patrick Vieira lost it? Who should we change in the selection? So we'll come back to some of those questions in a minute or two. But we've had some players out on loan. We've got players out on loan at the moment. I just want to summarise some of that stuff that's going on there, because there was some good news really this week by some of the players that were out on loan. So our friend Jez Raksaki, he scored again for Charlton. They lost 2-1 to Fleetwood Town, but he got a very, very good goal in that defeat. And Killian Phillips, he scored for Shrewsbury in a 3-2 win over Port Vale as well. And the goals of both of those goals, videos of them are on our Twitter feed. I retweeted them from somebody else. So if you want to have a look at the goals, you haven't seen them yet, those two goals, they're worth seeing. Killian Phillips needs to work on his goal celebration. That's all I'll say about him. Rob Street also played in that game for Shrewsbury, came off the bench. John Kamani Gordon, he played for Carlisle in a 0-0 draw against Wimbledon. Who else we got? Malachi Boateng was an unused sub for Queen's Park. Quite a few of these lads seem to be unused subs or on the bench. So Bowie, he was on the bench for Hull. I know it's the Championship, but you send him out on loan and they're not even starting, which worries me slightly. And I'm wondering when we do send players out on loan, whether there's something you can say, look, you can have him on loan, but you've got to play him. You can't. No point going out on loan if they don't play, really, is there? So it's a bit crazy.
There's no point playing him if he isn't better than what they've already got.
Well, why have they got him then?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, unless they've got him here as backup, mate.
Yeah, who knows? So it's worth mentioning. I think we always like to do this on this show. The loan watch, really. Greg Ellis has said Bowie's returning from injury, so that's maybe why he didn't start. And some of these lads, I'd like to see them come back and make a contribution to this football club. That's the whole idea. They go on loan, they come back better players, and next season maybe we'll have some more to choose from. Okay, so we also said at the top of the show that we were going to come back to talk about the women's team, and I want to do this now and just say to Nick, who's going to talk on this a little bit. We've had there's been a tweet today from a guy who is the coach for the Women's Academy. So, it's mainly the girls' teams, I think. A guy called Nathaniel. Now, he's written an open letter to the club, to Steve Parish and the other directors, really complaining that they've had to buy some of their own stuff, the training stuff. So coaches are never provided kit. We have to buy our own from the club shop. Have to purchase all the own equipment, balls, cones, poles, etc. And he's saying that the club are not supporting the women's team. Nick, you've got strong views on this, haven't you?
First of all, before I get into it, yes, I have. Thank you, Ian. I'm aware that there are certain members of the very close-knit Palace Ladies Supporters group watching the show tonight, and also some other individuals from the ladies setup. So I know some of them were actually watching on YouTube, one in particular, and you know who you are. Very good evening to you, and thank you for joining us. I could sum up what I'm about to say with one word, really, and that's embarrassment. Okay. Many years ago, before we were Red and Blue Review, we were Red and Blue News, as I'm sure you're aware. And we actually started off, when we first started up as a team, we decided to sponsor a couple of the young kiddies. And when I say that young kiddies, these were a couple of the young girls in the development squad who reached out to us and said, look, we have to fund our own travel, our own kit and everything else in the name of Crystal Palace Football Club. And I thought to myself at that time, I remember thinking, do you know what? That's, it's a bit of embarrassment, really, isn't it? Why these get? But I sort of understood it. We were languishing in the lower half of the Championship at the time. Funds weren't Premier League funds and everything else. And they were young kids who probably won't go on to do anything. Well, one of them, Lauren Amina, has actually gone on to be one of the top graduates in American women's football. Okay, she's an English girl, but she went out to the States and she did really well. She's doing really well. I'm still in touch with her. The other girl, Chloe, drops off a little bit by the wayside. So that is the young kids. This is not the young kids that we're talking about here. This is the coaches at Crystal Palace Academy. Okay, this is probably the manager as well, although I don't know that for sure. This is the players. They have to go to the club shop and buy their own training stuff, their own kit. A coach needs to have the poles. A coach needs to have balls. He's got to go out and buy them. Crystal Palace Football Club, you're a fucking embarrassment. And I am absolutely fuming at what I've read today. If any of that, even if one line of that was true, what I've read today, the club need to get a grip of themselves. They don't play. They don't let them play. Hang on, Joe. I will come to you, mate. I'll concede in a second. Let me finish. They've put a few pictures up on one of the Portal Cabin's walls supporting the girls. The girls get to play there 2 or 3 times a season. They are not a second-class citizen. They are an integral part of our football club. Okay, and I'm sorry that you need to parish and the rest of the board need to fund a better lifestyle for those girls. They put their heart and soul in for our club every week. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Nick, thank you. A lot of love for what you're saying in the chat there. Andrew Adams supporting what you're saying. Apologies if you heard any industrial language there from Nick, but thank you for your view. Jel, bring you in next, and then Chloe.
So this is not a new thing, is it? I mean, those that know really, and it didn't really get taken big time by the mainstream media. But Wilf was Zaha was paying for the ladies' team out of his own pocket at one stage. This little things. I know other football around the world, and you know, things are nice when you get supported, and you know, I mean, I took it. Dean Davenport gave me a whole kit, 20-odd shirt, well, complete football kit that I took out to Africa and gave it. But John Textor wrote a cheque for $5,000 for someone, something to do with Ghana, with football out in Ghana. Now, I know I don't want to take the $5,000 away from the people in Ghana, but you know, if our girls, ladies, the female structure within our club is not being fully supported, that's not embarrassing. That's disgraceful. We are Premier League. We have probably between 160 and 180 million quid. If you chucked 30 grand at them, or 50 grand, I don't know what it would take. If it took 100 grand, in the grand scheme of things, that is no money for 3 guys or 5 guys together that are probably sterling billionaires, and then 2 American billionaires, or maybe 3 American billionaires. No one knows what Textor's worth. I just think that it's not embarrassing, it's disgraceful. And the fact is that someone has reached out an open letter to our chairman, and we haven't heard anything. We used to hear all the time from him, but when it's put on them, when it's literally put on them, oh, zippy. Embarrassing.
I mean, the billions don't come into it, because you're right. It would take 50 grand, 100 grand to get this sorted. And even that probably wouldn't be enough, but it would be enough to stem the embarrassment, you know, and to deal with this in the short term for sure. Now, Chloe, someone actually asked in the chat, what does Chloe think of the women's game and women's football, and your views on what you've just heard?
I enjoy the women's football. I really enjoyed the Euros and the World Cup as well. So I think it's disgraceful. It's complete neglect of women's football. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Imagine if the kind people who actually have been, you know, putting their hand in their pocket to help them, if they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
So it's wrong.
Thank you. And Nathaniel, who is the coach for this women's academy, he said in the letter, one of the other things he said in the letter, you can go and see it. It's on Twitter, by the way. And one of the things he said in there, he's put 9 grand of his own money in recent times to make this work. He shouldn't have to do that, should he? Put 9 grand of his own money in. I'm just trying to find his Twitter handle, actually. Someone can help me out here. I did have it here. Here it is. It's meticulous_Esquire, Nathaniel TB. So go and have a look for him on Twitter and follow the guy, because he's got a lot to say, and hopefully he'll be the one that calls this out, and the club will respond to it and deal with it in the way it should be dealt with. Nick.
Okay, first of all, my apologies from Greg Ellis has just called it industrial strength language. I do apologise. I shouldn't have sworn.
Right.
Okay, I'm the first one to say that every week, but I am very, very passionate about this subject. There's lots of things being discussed in the chat about it, and a lot of people agree in what I've said. They're saying even those pictures, the images of the girls that are on the portal cabin are out of date. Okay. I think Nathaniel has been extremely brave. What he's actually obviously done is put his neck in a noose, and I worry about his future now. But to be spending that sort of funds, I know we don't want to spend any more too long on this, but I am passionate about it, Andrew Adams. You're absolutely right. I'm passionate about it. You know, you could argue, why don't I go to get to see so many games? Okay, well, the last 3 that I went, we've lost every one of them. You know, Palace were advertising it everywhere in the stadium.
They told you to stay away, haven't they?
Hold on a minute. You know, when we were third from top, or we were in the championship, we were third from top at one point this season. Palace were advertising it everywhere. They're on the back of it. They're on the back of the Women's World Cup and everything else. The results have slipped away a little bit recently. So what? Get behind the ladies.
Yeah, but they told you to stay away because they lose every time you go. But Jel, very quickly, Jel.
One word: it's lip service.
Lip service.
And it is.
Yep.
There's 2 words in it.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to move us on now, if we may, because we are sort of approaching the hour mark on this show, and that's the normal duration of the show. I want to come back to the men's team. I want to come back to Brentford away next Saturday. Tough place to go. I went there last season for the 0-0 there. A bit like a big Meccano stadium, isn't it? The Brentford ground, if you went there last year. So predictions, please, in the chat. I'll come to the panel in a minute for their view on the result next Saturday afternoon. But before we do that, what changes would you guys make to the starting 11? Let's assume we have Anderson and Wilf back. You know, I presume you'll bring both of those back in. But you know, Amada, for example, he's had cameos. You know, he's come from Stuttgart, 3.5-year deal, 9.7 million. He came off the bench yesterday on the 86th minute, 82nd minute against Man United. Would he get more game time? Or Albert Sambi Lokonga, should he start next Saturday? What are your views, Nick? First of all,
actually, I'll be honest with you. I'll start off with your latter two. They're the 2 new guys. From what I've seen, I haven't seen enough of them to actually warrant them starting. I would not, if assuming Wilf is fit and Anderson is fit, I would certainly bring those back. But because of the way Brentford play, they are very, very. Their strength is in their midfield. Okay, not necessarily the wide players or even their attacking players. Their strength is in the midfield. They get it up to the front boy who puts it away. So my thought process would be somewhere in there. You take Schlupp out and you bring Jimmy Mack back in and get him into attack their midfield. And that's the only. It won't be the new guys, but I would certainly bring the other 2 back.
You start MacArthur next week.
Yeah, as long as he's fit, okay. I know he's not match fit. Of course, he's not match fit, but I think he's a bit of a tiger in there, and that's what you need against a team where their strength is across the middle of the park.
Yeah, he would. It probably last 60 minutes when he maximum, I would suggest.
Yeah.
Jel, thoughts about it?
Yeah, the 60-minute. I was literally just about to use that phrase myself. With Macca, it'd be great to see him back, show a bit more tenacity in the midfield, and I think really he's a perfect foil for an hour for Decore. We've got to try something. I mean, Eze not starting. Now, he comes to us for decent money. He must be on decent wages. I don't know why he's not being picked, why he's not starting. You know, he is a flair player. You need flair players. I mean, that's what Wilf is. Wilf's not all about pace anymore. Wilf's about flair. So I'm a bit despondent as to why Eze can't play. You know, I know that we have struggled at times when we've played that. You know, that sort of spearhead of Zaha, Elise, and Eze. But while Wilf isn't playing, you've got to play Eze, haven't you? I mean, you've got to play him. And again, Schlupp had a great game last week, and according to everyone, you know, you had a good game yesterday. So who'd you drop? But football is you know, so why you've got 25 players in a squad in a match day squad, so you can rotate. You know, I mean, God forbid play 90 minutes every game throughout a season. That'd be unheard of now. So I do think that. You know, if their strength is in the midfield, then we need to bolster our midfield. Even if we go, I mean, I'd like us to go 3-5-2. I really would, and that would show some attacking intent. The other thing as well, just very quickly, if Anderson does come back, I mean, there is a little whisper about him actually playing in the midfield.
Yeah, there is, or at right back. He's played both for Denmark.
Hello.
But then saying that, why don't we play three at the back? I can't see why we don't play three at the back.
Okay.
So yeah,
I think when you've got so many options from the bench, 5 substitutes, you can afford to take a risk with someone like Jimmy Mack next Saturday. If you only had 2 subs or something, you might not want to do that just in case he breaks down. But what's the worst thing that could happen? He plays 10 minutes and breaks down or something, 15 minutes, and you bring someone else on. Give him that opportunity. I think you're right. We've got to do something different next week against Brentford. Chloe, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. They play a 3-5-2 as well, don't they? So
I think they do, yeah. And to counteract that and get amongst them, it's a bit of an old adage, isn't it? The game is won and lost in the midfield, and I think next Saturday will be crucial to winning the midfield battles for sure.
Wait, can I just add? They haven't lost a game since October. They haven't lost a league game since October.
Brentford haven't. Okay, it's an interesting stat. So Brentford haven't lost since October. Well, they've got to lose at some point then, haven't they? So, Chloe, let's get your score prediction then for next Saturday, shall we?
Another draw, 1-1.
Another 1-1.
That's
okay,
me being positive as well.
Fill in your Paul scoop on a 1-1. Yeah, very good. Okay, you're too young to remember Littlewood's Pauls. Jel, what about you, mate?
Yeah, 1-1. Did I say draw last week against Brighton as well?
I don't know. I put 1-1 in my Super 6, so I got that right. But there we are. 2 1-1s. Then what about you, Nick? What are you going for?
Very quickly, I just want to cover something about what Jill just said. We're talking about the Anderson playing in the back, in front of the back 4. I'm sure that's something we discussed on this show about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And there was a lot when I mentioned about putting him there because he could spray the balls around. There was lots of eye rolling going on. And the point was made that we'd never seen him play in that position. Yes, you've just done it again, Noble. I know you have, okay? And I noticed he's being picked up on one of the major Twitter sites this week. I just wonder where they got that information from. Shall we play him in front of him? But again, the truth be known, we don't know what he plays like. And just finishing off on the Zaha thing, we don't know. I haven't seen any video footage of Zaha back in training apart from him shadow boxing. So whether he'll be back in or not, I don't know. And Anderson I haven't seen training either. So I think it's unlikely that both of those will feature. However, I'm going to be the one with a bit of positivity and say my prediction next weekend will be a 1-2 win to Palace away at the Brentford ground.
Very good, very good. And I'll go a 1-0 win. I think we'll keep a clean sheet and sneak it 1-0. So there we go. Predictions. We've had the predictions. We're going for draw or a Palace away win. I know we've got red and blue tinted specs on and all the rest of it. There's less positivity in the chat about the score predictions. I'm seeing come through. A few people are saying Palace are going to win. I want a positive comment to finish on from you all. So one positive thing from yesterday's performance. Nick first.
We haven't lost against Brighton in 3 years. Okay, so we can go to the Amex with full gusto, okay, full voice, and get behind the team, and also get behind the ladies.
Brilliant. Okay, we haven't lost. I think you'll find it's 4 years, but yeah. Okay, Jel, positivity.
Having MacArthur back.
Very good. Like that, Chloe. To you.
We didn't get hammered, so that's always positive.
We didn't get hammered. Very good. And on that note, we didn't get hammered. It's been the Red and Blue Review. My name's Ian Noble. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Always a pleasure, never a chore. We're back next Sunday with another show, and I think Nick's in the chair next week, Sunday the 19th of February. Until then, see you next time. Thanks for joining us.